تم بحمده تعالى تحرير مدينة دمشق وإسقاط الطاغية بشار الأسد وإطلاق سراح جميع المعتقلين المظلومين من سجون النظام. إن غرفة عمليات فتح دمشق تهيب بالإخوة المجاهدين والمواطنين والحفاظ على جميع ممتلكات الدولة السورية الحرة. عاشت סוריה حرة أبية لكل السوريين بجميع أطيافهم.
אנחנו צריכים לקיים הערכת מצב ממש כל כמה שעות. הוא קצב, כל אירוע כאן הוא קובע סטנדרט ושינויים קדימה. ולכן אנחנו עוקבים מאוד מקרוב עם כל יכולות האיסוף על מה שקורה. הדגשים המרכזיים זה לראות גם את היציאה האיראנית, את האינטרס האיראני, שזה מבחינתנו צורך ראשון. והדבר השני, לראות את הגורמים המקומיים כאן שתופסים את השטח, מה הם עושים, איך הם מתנהגים, איך הם מורתעים, ולא מתבלבלים בפנייה לכיוון שלנו. אם יש בלבול כזה, יש מענה התקפי, ומאחוריו מענה הגנתי, מאוד מאוד חזק, להיות ערוכים.
Reporting from Jerusalem for endtimes.com, this is Brian Schrauger. In Israel, as throughout the entire Middle East, the overthrow of Bashar Assad's regime in Syria is quite a surprise. The virtually unopposed and lightning-quick success of the Sunni rebel group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, in short HTS, in its takeover of Syria's major city Aleppo and then 1 week later Damascus, is stunning. Only days ago, the situation in Israel's northeastern neighbor's house looked like this. Since last Sunday, however, it looks like this. Bashar Assad, the Syrian army, Russia, and Iran have been decisively removed, at least for now. As always, I am recording this report on Monday for publication on Tuesday. Because events are still unfolding at a rapid pace, it is likely there will be new developments in Syria by the time you see this. Instead of attempting a blow-by-blow explanation of what HTS rebels have done and why they succeeded, this report's focus is what it means to Israel. In short, Israel is celebrating the removal of Assad's regime, but at the same time, it is rapidly preparing for the possible actions of a new anti-Israel entity as it consolidates power. The last thing Jerusalem wants, the last thing it is willing to tolerate, is a new brand of Hezbollah just across its other northern border with Syria. There are several reasons why Israel is rejoicing. One is shared humanitarian relief. Not only was Assad an enemy of Israel, he was a relentlessly cruel, murderous despot who tortured, slaughtered, starved, and imprisoned his own people. Since about 2015, an estimated 6 million were forced to run from their homes but remained in Syria. Those who could escape the country, about 5 million refugees, did so fleeing to countries far and near, from Turkey to Egypt, from nations throughout Europe to those in both North and South America. Arguably, refugees from Assad's regime seeded radical Islamism throughout countries in the West, provoking much of the anti-Semitism and social unrest evident today in the US, Canada, and Western Europe. One of the biggest reasons causing Israel to rejoice over Assad's removal is because it is the final blow to Iran's so-called Shia Crescent, wherein it had established 3 corridors that stretched all the way from Tehran to the Mediterranean. All of them, however, passed through Syria. The 2 biggest corridors, seen here in dark and light green, went through Damascus and southern Syria. These routes were facilitated by Bashar Assad in exchange for Iran's protection from various rebel groups within the fractured boundaries of its so-called country. In recent years, these land corridors were transportation highways, bringing weapons to Hezbollah in Lebanon and even to Hamas in Gaza. Israel rejoices not only because those corridors have been closed, but also because Assad's fall collapses the final grip of Tehran's stranglehold via its proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, and Syria. Hamas is decimated, if not yet completely destroyed, likewise Hezbollah, and now Syria. Except for fractured terror cells inside the Palestinian territories and the Houthis 1,200 miles to Israel's southeast, Iran's global caliphate ambitions have been badly crippled. Perhaps the greatest cause for cautious celebration in Israel is that Assad's removal takes away the last element of support for Hamas in Gaza. Not only has Hamas lost the support of Hezbollah, it has now lost the support of Iran. The hope in Israel is that all these things taken together will result in the imminent release of Israeli hostages still held by Hamas in Gaza. As noted many other times in these reports, every Israeli regards those hostages as family members. Their release is no less longed for than the release of a son, daughter, parent, or spouse. As you pray for Israel, please continue to intercede on behalf of all the hostages still held by Hamas. With all these reasons to rejoice, why is Israel rapidly building up defenses along its Syrian border? Why is it bombing military sites and weapon depots of the now defunct Assad regime? Why has it moved across Syria's border to establish a security zone? On the one hand, victorious Sunni rebels are offering peace to the Jewish state. Please note that the following clip includes English subtitles that have been burned onto the video.
معكم غريب شهادات لقناة كان 11 الإسرائيلية. أعزائي جيراننا أحبتنا في دولة إسرائيل الصديقة، أكلمكم الآن والفرحة تغمرني وتغمر كل أهالي درعا، والفرحة تغمر كل أهالي حوران بعد زوال هذا النظام، بعد زوال 40 عام وهو جاثي على صدورنا، بعد زوال 40 عام من الاضطهاد. أكلمكم بلساني ولسان كل إنسان حر في درعا وسائر سوريا، والمرحلة القادمة ستكون مرحلة وئام ومرحلة محبة ومرحلة سلام مع دولة إسرائيل. لا وجود لمتطرفين، لا وجود لمتطرفين، لا وجود لمتطرفين، وجود للمحبة، وجود للسلام. نعم أن تدخل إسرائيل وتعمل استثمارات.
On the other hand, however, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, and its leader Abu Muhammad al-Julani are jihadists with roots in al-Qaeda. In 2021, al-Julani told PBS Frontline that his motivation for joining al-Qaeda in 2003 was the Second Intifada by Palestinian Islamists in Israel. It was an intifada characterized by countless terror attacks and was especially renowned for bus bombings in Jerusalem. I started thinking about how I could fulfill my duties, he said, defending the Palestinian people who are oppressed by occupiers and invaders. In 2006, al-Julani was arrested by U.S. forces in Iraq, where he was imprisoned until 2011. Although the path of his career has led to a posture today whereby he disavows attacks against Americans or Europeans, supports the rights and education of women, and claims to seek justice and economic structures that respect human rights, nonetheless, in 2021, he still referred to Israel as, quote, the Zionist regime, as an occupier and invader oppressing Palestinians. Why is Israel destroying Assad regime military sites, weapon depots, and munitions manufacturing facilities? Why has it moved across the border to establish a security zone? In spite of today's friendly face of HST, Jerusalem has no desire to leave arms for use by a new potential enemy, or to allow an enemy front directly on its border to attack the Jewish state, as Hezbollah did for more than a year from Lebanon. Another concern is Turkey's President Recep Erdogan, renowned for his desire to resurrect the Ottoman Empire, and with an equally well-known anti-Semitic hatred of Israel. Erdogan is the hidden hand of HTS and its leader, Abu Muhammad al-Julani. Until recently, HTS was located in northwestern Syria, sharing a border with Turkey. The rebel group's recent victory in Syria happened fast, but it wasn't on impulse or without significant long-term support. In fact, it is virtually certain that for years, Erdogan supplied the group with funds, weapons, and intelligence. As noted in last week's report, it is no accident that the rebels' offense began on 27 November, the same day Israel's ceasefire with Lebanon went into effect. Why that day? With Hezbollah decisively removed from the equation, Syria had lost all of its external support. As for Russia, it was too extended in Ukraine to help Assad. For its part, Iran was too weakened and simply unwilling. With Assad completely isolated, it's all but certain that Erdogan pulled the trigger, launching the rebels' takeover of Assad's Syria. Israel's concern is that with his own jihadist force in control of Syria, Erdogan might be moving into position to replace the Islamic Republic's dream for a Shia caliphate with his own dream for a Sunni caliphate, a resurrected Ottoman Empire that would not include Israel. Another concern in Israel is the status of its closest ally in the Middle East, namely the Kurds. Today, Kurds live in eastern Turkey, northern Iraq, western Iran, and in northwest Syria. In Syria, they were subjected to a Turkish campaign of ethnic cleansing in 2019. How will HST rebels regard the Kurds in Syria's northeast, especially in light of Recep Erdogan's de facto authority over those rebels? The biggest concern in Israel, however, is not related to new leadership in Damascus. The biggest concern is, if you are not yet a subscriber to endtimes.com and would like to see the rest of this important report and others like it, I urge you to subscribe right now at the website endtimes.com. For only $7 a month, you will receive a wealth of information and insight from Jimmy Evans, Mark Hitchcock, and experts from around the world, including Israelis living right here in the Jewish state. Do yourself a favor and sign up today. Then join me as we consider Israel's serious concerns in the aftermath of the removal of Bashar Assad's regime in Syria, especially its concerns about Iran.